Okay. Hello. uh, yeah, so I've been talking for maybe 30 minutes to myself. This is the second time this happened to me. What fun. Alright, maybe I can be a bit more articulate this time. So, hello Mike, and hello everyone else in the future. I am a bit tired today, and I keep making mistakes, so let me just say this is going to be a shorter stream than expected because, yeah, I don't know if I can just keep talking, like, I have to repeat what I just said, kill me now. Anyhow, welcome. Today, I'll be showing this color map. I will be polishing it, and we'll talk about how I created this color map for my tiles material. So again, let me just show you where I'm at right now. And oh, Dan, hello. I thought you weren't going to be here. So no, Mike, I haven't said it. It's not recorded. So like that wouldn't make any sense, right? If I started in the middle of the graph, that would be crazy. No, I'll go over it again. It's not that bad. At least I'll be less lost for words. Anyhow, so this is the color map, and this is the reference. As you can see, I think I got pretty close, and yeah, I'm still not happy with it, right? Like I'm never happy with anything I make. It's a curse, and you know, what can you do? Like I guess I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Anyhow, yeah. So there is a lot going on in this material. First of all, let me just say that nowadays, when you have okay, nowadays, most of the material we see around are actually not, properly speaking, marble. And I don't mean the difference between geologically understood marble, which is just limestone, superheated limestone, that created these like bubbles and then cooled down, and differentiated. This is a technical term to differentiate matter so that it like becomes, for example, layered, right? Never mind that. I'm not going to give you a lecture in geology, but yeah. So nowadays, most of the material we see, as Angel said on Discord, is actually not 100% natural. There are a lot of techniques that go into how the surfaces are processed. One of them, lithographic printing, and so it gives this this kind of look that's very reminiscent of what we actually make here in our CGI noise generators. So when I went to my bathroom, and today when I went shopping, I actually went to a what's it called, Mebelix, right? I wanted something for my bathroom, and yeah, I looked at all the tiles they had there, and most of them are actually fake, right? It's not real marble. Real marble is very expensive. It's very difficult to handle. It's very fragile. So yeah, I actually didn't mind departing from the reference because the reference itself seems to me a bit fake. Faux. As they say it in French, faux. It means false or fake. So faux marble. Anyhow, again, I'm rambling. I'm a bit tired today. Sorry. So if you look at these veins, right, which is the most defining aspect of the material to my mind, they are quite straight, but also quite warpy, and this is always very tricky to get. They are quite sharp, especially in places, right? Like here, this is almost like a very straight Voronoi pattern, but then you have these crazy patches that are really warpy. So that was the challenge. And then you have these like very large pieces. Another aspect of this material is that these veins have outlines. I was just speaking about that when Mike told me that I'm not online. Another aspect is that they have grains, right? Like little specks of little grains of minerals that got sort of that didn't quite melt maybe during the formation or in the formation, and so yeah, that's that. And then there are these like large color patches. And so I think the color patches I got right. I added a lot of grains as well. I don't know if you can see them on YouTube, but they are there, trust me. I also added a lot more veins that weren't necessarily in the reference. You can see that I have something crazy going on, something quite warpy. I also have these very black veins. I actually like that. It made the material a lot more interesting, a lot less painterly almost, right? So you shouldn't look too close. If you look like this, then it's obviously just direction warp. But if you look at this from like from afar, a bit more afar, and imagine the material should be used on a plane in a game somewhere, you know, with lighting and stuff like that. I think a lot of the effects will sort of disappear in that. So that's that. Also, this material looks very different at 2K and at 4K. That's because a lot of the effects you use are heavily dependent on resolution, especially slow blurs, right? So there is always a trade-off there. I worked at 4K for the most part for this color map because I know that this is going to be a portfolio piece and I want to have high resolution. I'm sorry, I'm so low. So here we go. Yeah, so this is 4K and 2K. Let it compute. Yeah, you can see that we get a lot thicker veins. The small ones almost disappeared. The grain disappeared pretty much. Yeah, it still works. It's still nice, I think. But you get these like very slow blurry shapes. That's because my slow blurs were set to work at 4K, not 40K, at 4K. All right, but so let's go back to 4K because that's what I worked on. The graph is a bit heavy for just color map. At 4K it takes about 6,000, 7,000 milliseconds. That's an overkill in my opinion. But you know, I wasn't thinking about optimization that much, so we have to change a few things maybe today. All right, so that's the I guess that's the introduction. I should also show the tiles themselves, which is let me just say just for people who haven't seen this yet. Come on, load. Just give it some time. Yep. All right, so that's the material. Is it? Oh, what happened there? I think I changed my tessellation settings. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So that's what it's supposed to look like, and yeah. So obviously I'm going to vector warp the color map over the tiles here. If we are lucky, I'm going to get there today, but I doubt it because you know, obviously I'm too tired. Okay. By the way, this I'm still unhappy with the cracks. I actually showed it to my mom today, and she's like, "It doesn't look too good because the cracks are too separated. Like here, there is no crack like going on. It looks like it was very selective. The destruction was very selective here." And she's got a point, but you know there is only so much you can do. So I'm not too worried. Here you get like nice continuous crack patterns, so that's nice, right? But here it looks a bit weird because it's unbroken here and here, but it's super broken here, so it's always a problem. But again, like we are looking at something that's going to be tiled, right? So like something like this. It's still very visible. Maybe a different seed will be necessary. Okay, so the plan is to apply this color map to the tiles today, if possible. All right, so let me close this for now. Okay. Yes, I'm gonna bring back the reference. We don't really need the 3D viewport, and let's go through it again. So yeah, the graph is a bit long, and I also talked a lot about, and shoot, I deleted it already. Oh my god, about. All right, so if you go to the InstaMAT library, search for a marble material, any of those really. Let's take this marble pink. If you open the graph and go here, there is a marble base, and whoever is the author of this had a very interesting approach to certain aspects of making marble. So I got inspired by that. So I'm just going to go through it quickly again. So first of all, what I found interesting is how he chose his, or she, or they chose their noises. So first of all, of course, you got some purlins, some clouds. That's like quite normal, right? And then you have this false warp, marble noise, obviously. That's actually the base for the whole effect of the material. I'll show it again in a bit. Some sponge noise, some liquid noise. Liquid noise I use quite a bit. It's a very nice noise for this stuff. Then you have this alien noise, which looks quite rocky. It's kind of like stone noise, but a little less high frequency. So that's nice. And some smoke noise for color variation and stuff like that. Of course, cracks. So all this makes for a sort of very coherent starting point. Like your foundational noises are in the same family of noises, if that makes sense. So that's one thing I noticed. You know, I guess this is something you get from, like, the more experienced you are, the more you know where to go for your noises and what you will need to do to process them. All right, another technique. There are actually a lot of techniques, but what he did, or she did, they did, I don't know what to say. He started with this marble noise, and with some of those false warps and all that, and he used a directional warp at a very high setting with the input of this marble noise. And what it does, it's a one-directional noise. It deforms the noise so that it starts following these cracks, and that's the basis for the veins, actually, in the material, at least for some of them. It's a very nice effect. I actually tried to replicate it. I wasn't that successful, but it's an interesting approach. So that's one thing. Another thing, he creates those striations around the veins using a gradient map dynamic with just a gradient input like this. So if you look here, it's again the marble noise, but this time with gradient linear for the gradient map. Very interesting. Yeah, he blends it in, so it gives him variation around the veins. I tried a different approach in the end, but this was also very interesting. Another interesting approach, and I can't see it here, might be blind, but let me just say scatter. Yes, this. So let's talk about this. So the way he creates these large color patches, is that he uses a guided scatter with a scale setting, you know, driven by some Berlin noise. It's not that important. You could just use randomize the internal randomization of the guided scatter. And he starts with a box, a very simple box, which will give him, when he uses a lot of flat flow gradients here and there, flat flows to color, he then channel packs it and runs it through a couple of warps, and that gives him the color patches. And I love that approach. It's very elegant, very simple, fairly easy to control. It's a bit funky when you try to get like the exact noises to look good, but it's really cool. And the result is that when you channel split it, you get so many cool masks that you can use later for additional processing. So you even get an alpha channel in there. Yeah, I ended up not using an alpha channel, but it's yeah, that's cool. And he does the same to his initial color. Uses the same warp, so it's going to stay. What's the word? It's going to stay connected. And so if you look here, oops, if we look here, yeah, I don't know how much you can see on YouTube because it's fairly low contrast, but you get these patches that will be pretty much the same as the patches that you get from this channel split. And so what he does then, he converts it into grayscale, back into grayscale, and edge detects it, and that gives him or her or them, where is it? Here. These outlines, right? These separations. To my mind, this is too strong, but maybe this is a different marble, right? Like I'm no expert, but I also use that. I took inspiration there. So that's that. He also added grains with another scatter here. I also do something similar. I don't do this this gradient map thing. I just take a difference. I'll show you in a bit. Okay, so that's the marble material from InstaMAT. It's really cool. I love it. I learned a lot from this. And at first it's really like intimidating because there are so many connections and all that, but I also like how he structured the graph. I ended up like understanding it fairly quickly. It took me maybe 1 hour of like playing with things to like completely understand the ins and outs and what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do, you know, based on that. One last thing, I decided to follow his approach to color because I would love to sell this material at some point. I think it's like my best material to date, and I'm starving. I'm kidding, but I would love to try and maybe get my art out there, not just for portfolio, but also for maybe some, you know, pocket money. So to do that, you need to have a predictable way of handling color. I've been talking about this, you know, the whole time I've been streaming, but this time, instead of using some gradient maps and picking a color from my... Oh, sorry, there is a helicopter going by. All right, it's gone. I live close to a hospital and there are helicopters all the time. Anyhow, yeah, so you basically, he uses these like 3 color variables throughout the whole graph. And yeah, I pretty much did the same thing. Oh, hello, Tomasz. Thank you for coming. Hopefully this will be useful to you. Thanks for coming. So yes, yes, I want the user to be able to choose his colors, and the graph should like stay true to them in a predictable fashion, if possible. So I avoided a lot of my usual color nonsense because that's really difficult if you don't know what you did, right? Like the user won't know what crazy blending modes you used. So yeah, he keeps using the same colors over and over again. Of course, that means that you get less color variation, but who cares, right? It still looks good, I guess. So that's another thing I learned from this material. At least I try to apply it to my material. Now, enough talking, enough exposure. Not exposure, exposition. And let's have a look at what I already talked about for like half an hour. All right. So this is my graph. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Now, so this is basically creating cracks, right? These are cracks. The veins are cracks. So again, it's all about cracks. So you start with a Voronoi pattern, right? That's one way to create cracks. So I started with a Voronoi pattern, a fairly large one, slightly smaller one, and one that is like fairly high frequency. I then deform them a little bit, and with the Perlin noise, that's a fairly low resolution. Now, I talked about this at length, but I'm just gonna give you the short part. So, a really good way to use directional warp for this kind of pattern is to use the single direction, a single direction. Instead of using like two or so, okay, let me solo this out. Now, if I use two, it will more or less stay the same, right? Like it's like, and at some point, if you really like try to push the intensity, it's gonna get swirly. It's because it's like simultaneously pushing like away from the whites and towards the whites, if that makes sense. If, on the other hand, you only do it in one direction, right? It starts pushing everything to in one direction. And the pretty part is that if you align this with some of the straight lines you have, it will stay straight, or they will stay straight. And that's exactly what you want for this kind of pattern. So instead of like trying to, and then you can change this, right? And now you can see that this is straight, and this is wobbly. So I keep using that all the time throughout the graph. Now, I should say that if you do this in this thing in one direction, you should combine a few of these, because you don't want like a perfect straight line and the wobbly parts. It will still look very artificial, very CGI. So you probably want to do another one in another direction, maybe with a like lower setting and like a more high frequency noise, something like that. All right, so yeah. So first, I take these largest segments, largest patches, and of course we create an edge detect at edge detection node. We invert it, and I feed it into a flat fill to get the random directions. Of course, what you have to do, or what you don't have to, but it's better if you do this. You will avoid a lot of artifacting. I take this distance node. So what the distance does is just like it's a dilation algorithm. So it pushes these color patches towards each other until there is no room between them. To do that, you need the original input that went into the flat fill. You put that into input of the distance, and then you just take whatever you want to be dilated into the source input. So you end up with a perfect vector map. Now, I use that to drive a displacement vector warp for all the higher frequency Voronoi noises. So yeah, I do that, and I also take flat fill to color, and with histogram select, also distancing it again so that I don't get this split here, right? Like you can see it, that there are these lines. With the distance, they are closed. They are no longer there. So essentially, you can then use histogram select to control which parts of this map you use as a mask. Makes it a bit more predictable, because if you're careful with the ranges so that they don't overlap, you will get pretty much always some sort of ratio between the parts where you want to blend your high frequency Voronoi cracks or cells and vice versa, right? So I do that. I just use a maximum to blend stuff in, and I end up with this edge detect. And you can see that it already is a bit more interesting. For example, this shape, right? How would you create this shape if not for this? If not for like this blending and warping and stuff? Yeah, stuff like this, like just a fragment that doesn't connect to anything, right? Like, so that I like that. That for me is a more convincing marbling pattern, right? Of course, this is just the beginning, right? Like, we are not going to have these super sharp transitions like this and all that. All right, so this is just the initial setup. I do this or something very similar once more, so that I get more cracks down the line. I'll talk about it in a second. All right, I have to drink. Be right back. So if there are any questions or any objections, just let me know, you know. I'm also going to close the window. Just be right back. Okay. So I don't see anything in chat, but just keep going, you know. All right. So next step. Well, we want to introduce some variation into the thickness of my cracks. So I use this crystal noise, and this time Chebyshev algorithm, which is based on boxes. And thanks, Tomasz. So you get like these sharp edges, which will give you a more intense, more what's the word? More I don't know, prominent slow bursts than, let's say, something like Berlin, or even the usual crystal noise based on the Euclidean algorithm. Because right, like you get these like really harsh transitions, and that's actually something I wanted, right? I wanted to go for a fairly sharp look. So you can see that the result is something like this, very chipped, almost kind of look. Of course, this will get distorted a lot, so not a big deal. But yeah, this creates thicker parts, and then I just blend it in using a grayscale mask from before, based on the flood fill. So I end up with like thicker parts and thinner parts, and if you look at the result, you can see that we have these like fairly thick veins, and then we have just very narrow ones, and that's a result of this like initial warping or blurring or what have you. So that's that. Now you'll notice that because of this procedure, we lost some of the edges. So I'm just blending them in again. This is important because we are going to be using flood fills down the line. So you want to have as many cells, as many defined cells as possible, so that the algorithm can process the image fairly easily. All right, moving on. I did one more thickening. This time again with some crystal noise, this time Manhattan. It doesn't really matter. It's just another fairly sharp cell pattern. And we also use that here. I'll just talk about this in a second. Same idea. This time it's a directional warp. So if we look at what we had before, which is fairly straight, still here we are getting these like fairly crazy distortions. It might be too much. I admit it's a bit much, but I had to start somewhere. So that's how I approach this. Now, and this is a decision I'm not sure about, but I wanted to introduce some directionality to my material. I like directionality. I think it adds it pleases the eye quite often. So sorry, I just lost my train of thought. There was a sound from the street. It was very weird. Yes, the safe transform. So I'm rotating this pattern and squishing it, right? This is you know, the one reason was that I wanted to have a directionality to the material. Also, if again, it's like I tell myself a background story, you know, of how the material came to be, how it formed. Usually, when you have molten rock, it's semi, it's a semi like flowing material, right? Like if you look at lava, or if you look at some like I don't know what would be a good example for you. Yeah, basically, if you heat water, it's very similar, right? Except this is a bit more viscous. There will be a direction to how it flows, right? So I guess your marbling patterns often have some directionality to it. That's one thing. So realism, and because it's pleasant to the eye, and also because of the warps. if you just have a very isomorphic material, if you have a material that's like more or less the same in all directions, right? Then or isomorphic material, doesn't matter. Then you the warps will just look different. You know, if you use a warp, a one-directional warp that goes like against the directionality, you will get a very interesting visual effect, right? But if you do that to something that's more or less the same everywhere, you will not get these differences between like wobbly lines and straight lines, like I said already. So that's my thinking there. Again, you could object to this idea. I'm making stuff up as I go, you know? By no means a professional. So that's that. Now, also, so this was pretty much just pure white. I wanted some breakup, so I blended some noise over. I took Euclidean crystals, turbulent purlin, did a warp, which gives a really nice, flamey, flowery pattern, but that's not the point. The point is that I use that to subtract uh, some values from it so that I get some more variation. Then I use the same noise to directional warp it in one direction again. Then I take a Perlin noise, I do that again in the opposite direction, and then again, you know, at 45 degrees, sort of following the directionality of my material, and that's the result. Yeah. So you can see like we started with something that's like pretty crazy, and I ended up with something that's like already starting to look fairly convincing, at least a little bit. Yeah. And that's just like a few warps. So yep, that's the beauty of it. Okay then. Right. So as I said, I also made another set of cracks or veins. Same principle. Just Voronoi patterns blended together, warps together, edge detected, some transformation to introduce directionality, directional warps, slow blurs, this time with liquid noise, some fractal sum to break it up. And we get something fairly crazy. I'm not 100% sure about this. This looks like a different kind of material, but I ended up going with it. And here I use the iterate node. I've mentioned this a couple of times. It's a node that takes the input and rotates it and translates it a couple of times based on your settings. 3 times based on this octave count. Then you have some blending modes that you can use. You can also use this dissolve setting. Essentially what it does, it takes a Perlin noise or something similar and subtracts it from your map, so it's like a little more broken up. And as I had learned recently, if you use this frequency separated, it will do this for every octave separately, right? So there will be a different seed for the noise for each octave. So that's the iterate. So what we get are these like super small, tiny Gregs, right? You can even specify the rotation by how much the original input gets rotated. So I actually used 180 to maintain the directionality, but you already get like a lot of tracks that go in different directions. And I compound that error, I guess, with another directional warp, and this is the result. I don't know how much you can see on YouTube. I'm gonna zoom in. You can see there are really fine, almost disappearing cracks. How much of it will be visible in the final material? That's a good question. Not that much, but I added it anyway. So this is what I'm adding here. Yeah, and you can see we have these now. And I lost my descriptions here for some reason. So we say additional veins in, something like that. Rotate and squish, that's right. Thickening, yep. So this is initial marbling pattern, additional marbling pattern. To distort. Let's distort. stored. And what is this? This is break up. Here, let's break up. Yeah. All right. So moving on. Now, sharpen is your best friend when it comes to cracks, obviously. Right? If I didn't use levels in sharpen, we wouldn't really see the cracks that much, right? And it's almost lost in this map. And if I look at the sharpen result, suddenly you get these like very, of course, anti-aliasing unfriendly cracks, but that doesn't matter because it will be blended with a lot of stuff down the line. All right, so that's that. Then I'm doing another directional warp. This time it's fairly subtle, but it's introducing a bit more variation here and there. Then I'm doing a slow blur, set to minimum. And this is an important part of the creation of the process, because if you look at this is like very thick and very uniform. And if you use a slow blur set to minimum, you suddenly get these like thin lines here and there. So we go from something that's very thick at times to something that's almost too narrow to be visible. And that's, to me, feels very natural. So I did that. And a final directional warp is just a original intensity, without an intensity input, which is just this noise pattern, basically your Perlin. This looks exactly like Perlin. And I have this set to 8 directions and a maximum. So what it does, if you look here, it will basically like smudge your image a little bit, as if you were seeing the input that many times, right? Like when people talk about seeing a double, this is seeing octuple. is that even a word? Like 8 times? I don't know. I'm not going to try to invent new words, but I'm not sure I like this. It gives you a bit more of a blurry look, and you can really like overdo it. You can see it here, right? Like it splits. It creates an idea of depth in a way. You don't have to go for this, I guess. That's my message here, right? It's a bit experimental, but it's a good way to use directional warps like this with set to maximum or minimum, and like additional directions here to introduce these like hairline effects. That's a really good way to do that. All right. So this is pretty much where I was when I realized that I wasn't streaming. So I'll just take a break again, and you guys can communicate. I know, crazy, right? People talking to each other. Thank you, Tomasz. I happen to be a teacher, so I should hope that I'm okay at explaining stuff. Thank you. But I thank you for the compliment. All right, that's good, that's good, that's good. Okay, so I think we are good to proceed. Now this part is entirely experimental. I wouldn't recommend doing the same thing. I'm not in. I'm yes, Tomasz. Thank you, thank you again. I'm not in any way convinced that this was a good idea. My idea was that for the color and okay, so again, if we go back to the reference, we zoom in, we see that we have an outline here, and there is like a lot of variation around the veins. To replicate that, I needed a couple of masks, obviously. And so I have the original one here, Come on. Yeah, so that's the origin one. And then I'm blurring it. So it wasn't the original one. What's happening here? Oh yeah. So this is the one. Now I'm blurring it at different scales, and I'm using that to produce a couple of masks. So essentially, what I'm going to do down the line is I'm going to take the largest one, the most blurred ones, and they will go in first, and then I'm going to layer the smaller ones over it, just like you would do in, let's say, Photoshop, right? You take like this is the large ones are going to be the bottom layers, and then you get like sharper and sharper, and this will give you good control, good amount of control for the underlying layers, as well as the layers that are going to be visible the most, which are going to be the veins, right? So to put it, to be more specific, so here we have this little outline. In fact, this is a whole vein below the white one, right, or the yellow one. There is a green vein down there, and that gives me more control, you know, as to what I want to do with it. You know, when I want to, let's say I want to change the color entirely, I can do that for that outline specifically. So that was the idea. But the way I implemented it was a bit funny. So where am I? Here. So the first one is actually not, it's fairly innocent, right? So I just take the blurred version, level it out a little bit. So I get this inverted mask, and then I do the same that the author of the InstaMAT's marble pattern did, right? I take these cracks and I warp some folds and some sponge noise around it. Yeah, so you can see that we get these like little outlines, and because this is already larger than these sharp cracks, I will get that detail down the line. Right. I also used a very strange blending mode called negation. It's a little bit like difference. I don't want to tell you what the math is behind it because I'm not 100% sure. The result I usually get is that I get more grays where there used to be whites, right? So for example, this is a very typical result I get when I'm processing like grayscale images using a negation. So yeah, we get this full white, and then we end up with something that has like some detail where full white was. So that that gives me something to work with again when we get to the actual color. Then I took another blur, this time at 3%, and I tried the technique I saw for these striations, but that didn't really work out too well for me. So I created a like a strange strange version of the cracks. I blended it with some noise, stuff like that, and then I used the gradient dynamic, and so I got this crazy thing. Of course, I'm not going to end up using these lines at all. I guess I could really like just use a fractal sum somewhere, because the result I get is this. And but that's actually a good result, right? I will be able to use this to drive the color down the line again. So I have that. Then I just create another mask here. I basically blend in some of the original cracks. I just clamp them a little bit, and yeah, that's it. So this whole part was just an attempt at creating different layers for the veins to create outlines and variation around the veins. So hopefully that makes sense. But the way I did it, I wouldn't try to replicate it if I were you. I would do something that makes more sense to you, or in general. Okay, so don't. If I can give you an advice, if I can give you some advice, I'd say don't do as I do in this case. Anyway, at least you know my thinking there. All right, and that's it, right? Like we are ready to start with the color. One last thing, and this is exactly where you told me that I wasn't streaming. Yes, we take a grayscale mask to be able to get a flood fill mask. and we take again a vector map out of it. To do that, sorry, in order to, so I take the vector map, in order to drive all sorts of deformations down the line. This whole thing propagates throughout the whole graph, really, because I want each of these segments to have different parts of my various noises and detailing that I'm going to do there. Alright, and as I was saying, I actually took this flat flow to color to have more masks, but I ended up only using one, so we are going to fix that. So instead of using the color one, we can just use the grayscale one. So yep, this, switch to grayscale, yes. Here, switch to grayscale, yes. Distance, and this goes here. Delete, unsolo, and that's it. We have the mask. So yeah, slight optimization. Okay. Right. So the color map. As you can see, I already specified a few colors. This is actually from my reference, but instead of taking a gradient map, you know, I'm sure you know how this works, but you can do this. Then you just color pick something. Let's color pick this, and you get a gradient map. And based on the input, it will give you that, which is a nice way to work. And in PBR materials, especially, this is like the way to get a lot of detail. But as you can see, it's very difficult to control. All the more so that we don't really have access to this color picker, or at least we can't expose this color picker to the user. So and it's also like very unpredictable, right? So I ended up going with the sort of variables that will drive my color. So I have this dark yellowish, green, reddish. I have this bluish, gray, and I have this green, yellow-green, I guess. Those are like the main colors. Then I have this very dark but saturated yellow, or not very, but actually fairly saturated, very bright actually. Now that I look at it, I guess it changed over time. And I have the vein color, referential color for the veins. So again, if we look at the result, I hope you will be able to see some of it there. Of course, there will be a lot of like HSL processing, a lot of guided HSL differentiation, and stuff like that. Yeah, of course. All right. So, yes. Well, so first step is very easy. We take this crazy map, which has the information about the veins in it, right? It's the map that we used, that we created here, right? It's sort of warping around the veins. So we use that, and we just use it to blend the two colors together. And we already get like a fairly interesting map. I wouldn't say it's good or anything, but that's that. All right. I also directional warped it quite a bit. So I got rid of that like very defined flow of the original map, because I only wanted the base. There are still like some veins here and there, but it doesn't really matter. Maybe just blurring it would have been okay as well. Okay, then I'm taking this green color and blending it in with some mask from before, right? Like it's just a it's again some of the cracks map that I had, and I'm warping it, blurring it, blending it with some noises, and just blending it in to drive the color. So we get green veins right now. All right, moving on. Now I saw this in the marble material. Basically, we get a gradient map, we remap our colors onto it, then we directional warp it, and so it I don't know if you can see it, but it creates this like flowing texture, lines, striations, I don't know what to call it. Yeah, it has a certain flow. It ends up not being too visible in the material, but it was an interesting effect. I wanted to try it. I guess I may not include it in the final material, especially if I want to sell it, because it doesn't really add much to it. So you can see we had these veins, and now they are like flowing. And that's you see this a lot in marble and stone materials, especially polished ones. All right. Okay, so the result is that I blend it together using a mask, so we get these details in there. Maybe if I sharpened this mask, maybe if I sharpen this, huh? Let me see. Might be more interesting. It's a bit much. Okay, we get a bit more definition. I don't know how much of that comes across on YouTube. Okay, let's have a look at this. And where was it? Here. So if we don't sharpen it, yeah, it gets lost in all the other effects. So I guess it's not that important. Yeah, it gets lost, but that's fine. You know, we are layering details. All right, next. So I started using the same colors over and over again, and yeah, using different masks, right? Like sometimes I take something that's like following the line, sometimes something else, sometimes just a noise, just a dirt noise, sometimes another noise. You know, it really isn't worth talking about because there isn't really like a technique to it. It's just me trying to choose different parts of the sort of quote-unquote height map and creating an interesting mask out of it, right? So here I add a little bit of that yellow breakup, for example. Here you can see it. Again, it will be mostly hidden by the veins that get blended on at the end, but it will introduce some variation to the material. All right. All right, and finally I just add a little bit of that vein color. Why? Well, because of this whole system. So what happens here? I showed you the technique the author of the InstaMAT marble material used. This is pretty much the same. So I create a guided scatter with boxes and whatever, and I take two flat fill to gradients and a flat fill to color. I channel pack it or channel compose it and run it through a couple of warps, right? Like one warp, another warp, another warp, another warp, and another warp, and vector warp at the end, so that it follows the cracks we have, or the veins we have, and then channel splitting, so that I get a lot of a lot of different crazy masks. Yep. So that's that. The actual shape of the warp kind of matters, and the noises that you use kind of matter. I try to avoid using the same noises he used and try something else, but in this case it wasn't really possible. I would recommend just going for clouds. Yeah, clouds and purlins. And I do the exact same thing. I should actually actually internally I should make sure that the values are exactly the same here. I might do that later. And I do that to the color. Now, so I take this color that we have here, and I, first of all, I average it. This is for the background, so that we don't get empty spaces there. And I take, you can say, you can tell the flat fill to color to sample the color from an image. In this case, our initial color scheme. And then we are running through the same cascade of warps, so we get these color patches. Back to warp it, and you can see the pattern emerging, right? Tomasz, cool thing with getting triple grayscale mask. Yes, yes. You know what color is just that it's it's a red, green, and blue channel plus alpha. You could actually even have something in the, plugged into the alpha, right, and then take it out here. That also works. I think the author did it in his graph. I didn't need it. I actually had the same setup. He had some weird like flood fill mappers with some cloud noises, you know, spread over his boxes here, and then he took it out. But I didn't understand what he was getting out of it, so I actually ended up not using it. I'm sorry, I have to drink again. I'm losing my voice. So yes, yeah. So you can, you know, when you're processing color, you're actually processing 3 times the amount of data. You know, so now, yeah, it is definitely more optimized, right? But at the same time, you're still processing 3 channels, 3 grayscale channels. So yes. Of course, there are probably some optimizations. InstaMAT in general, the guys on Discord like to brag about how optimized the code is, and I can testify to it. Of course, I can't code myself, but I'm working at 4K here, right? And it's like pretty much instant what I'm looking at. So perfect. Okay. Where was I? Yes. So we are getting these color patches in here. I use the average blending mode, but maybe I could actually ease up on that because I would like to get some of those like flowy lines there. Let's see what happens. Huh? Well, maybe a bit better. So we had this before. Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe actually like 2 different blends would be good, so that I can like retain some of it from before. Is this good actually? Nah. I also changed it with HCL. It's just noise. I mean, if I wanted noise, then yes, but I wonder where it got lost though, because it was such a cool effect. Oh, maybe it's not that cool. All right, sorry. Yeah, there is always a danger at like in looking at your material from up close, because you are the one who knows what's happening, and you tend to notice it. And but no one's going to notice that. No one's going to see that. So I guess the whole point of this like gradient map here to show the flow of the material, well, it's pointless actually. But it introduced some color variation, so I'm gonna leave it in. It's not even that heavy. It's a little heavy, 10 milliseconds. You know, whatever. The material is heavy. Like my main height map is already like 13,000 milliseconds, which is insane. What can you do? All right, back to being on point. So we blended in these color patches, and it's starting to look okay. Yeah. So we have to work some more on the color patches, which is all the way here. So quite a lot of details, quite a lot of, and I kept adding and adding because every time I posted it or sent it to Dan or I posted it in InstaMAT, he said like more details, you know. So like, I ended up adding a lot more than I saw in the reference, but that's fine. It looks better. It does look better. So, taking a mask. Actually, this is one of those channel packed masks, and I'm histogram selecting it to get like some areas that are going to be a bit blurry because I'm going to blur this cloud swirly, which is a sort of a cells clouds noise over it, and this will give me a little bit of like a yellow noise all over the material, pretty much like yellow stains. I don't know if you can see it, but let me show you what it was before. Right here, for example, and here you suddenly get these like yellow patches. So color variation. I wanted the material to be a bit into yellow. Like my reference seemed to have very warm lighting, so I tried to account for that. But at the same time, I liked the warm look, so yellow goes in. So that's variation number one. Also, I should be labeling stuff. So we say this is like patches, patches in. I can't type in now. This is like patches base. It's like patches scatter, and this is obvious. What is this? It says H. I wonder what it is. What is it? What is that? It's just some random noise. Okay, apparently I edge detected my stuff from here. Why did I do that? Then I used some slow blur. Then I used subtracted some noises. Again, with directional warp set to minimum, which is obviously an overkill. And slow blur it so that I get like little specks out of it. That can't be right. What does this do? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I could actually like get rid of this, I guess, because it's just like driving a bit of the color of the veins into this whole warping procedure. Yeah. Am I using it anywhere else? I am. Why? What is that? What is that? What is that? It goes all the way here. What is it? Oh my god. What did I do? Okay, and we get little specks of white here and there. Okay, no. No, that's not worth it. Let's play with the slow blur here. Or actually, we could get rid of the slow blur. Yeah. Yeah, and then we get a lot more. But then we probably want to do less. No, more, because it's minimum. Okay, so if I didn't do this, if I deleted this, not a good idea. What could I, if I didn't do this? That looks awful. It gives some spots, like veiny spots here and there. I'm gonna keep it, I think. Yeah, I'll keep it. I think it was one of the experiments that sort of got left in. Not not entirely intentional. That happens. I'm also using it here for the. Oh, I see. Okay, so it started. I see what it is. It started as the noise that drives the slow blur that drives the warps here, and then I kept reusing it just because I had it available. But I think like the warps didn't change that much, and we got a little more detail here and there, so I guess I'll keep it. Yep. All right. Fair enough. Right. So we blended it in these patches. We did some more effects. This time I'm using a smoke noise with this alien noise and dirt noise together to create some like grungy look and introduce more variation. That gives me these like bluish specks. You probably won't see much over stream, but it's there, trust me. Like it's like about layering all these subtle details in and out. Now this is an interesting technique. So we have this guided HSL, and you can specify an input. In this case, I'm taking one of those maps from before, from the patches, and another one. And I'm trying. I think it might even be the same one, but inverted. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter actually, because then I just can introduce subtle shifts in saturation and luminosity based on that mask. And then I just blend it together with another mask. This time probably the flat fill to random color mask. And so what it does, you sort of specify a range in which your color map will increase in contrast, both in luminosity and saturation. So if I show you what it looked before, we didn't really have any contrast and any like variation in saturation and stuff like that. But here, we suddenly get a really contrasting map. That looks cool, in my opinion. So, and it's not as homogeneous as before. Yep. Moving on. So I took, again, it's one of those maps from the patches, general split. I just histogram scanned it so that it's not everywhere, and I'm blending in one of my colors again. So if you look at before, there is very little green. I wanted some additional green, and there we go. We suddenly have more green there. So lovely. I actually make use of this average node for this base a lot. I didn't want it to be to have too harsh transitions. You know, we talked about it with Dan, and like it looked to us, or it looked to him, that the reference is very soft. It might just be that the reference is very low quality. It's very blurry, but at the same time, the transitions are like, it looks like fractal wall, fractal sum or clouds, you know, blending together. So I ended up using average quite a bit more than I would usually do. But Mike Price, my new node of the day, guided HSL. Yes, I love the guided nodes. They are so powerful. You can do so much with it. You're in complete control then, or almost complete control. So that's it. You can actually even complicate its setup, right? Like you could blend the first HSL with your background from before, and then feed this into another one. You can create a whole tree of like variation. I might actually create a custom node that will do something like this. It will take maybe four HSLs and like blend it incrementally back together, and that's going to give you like color variation. It's not the cheapest thing to do. You can see that the the cost can be quite high, but yeah, it's you get like really accurate color maps this way. Does that make sense? I don't even know if I'm saying sentences right. Like I'm so tired. I'm sorry, guys. I shouldn't have streamed today. I don't know why I'm so tired. It was a nice day. I didn't do anything, you know. All right. Anyway, so that's the first really important step in our mask. So I guess I'll just say HSL contrasting, and just say info. Yep. There we go. So thanks, Mike. All right. what's next? What's next? Yes. Okay, guided scatter number 1. This is actually something this is the last effect I added. Um, Dan kept saying that I should add more details, so I added more details. So, guided scatter. This time I'm using a polygon. What's cool, you get this if you go to the pattern, instead of selecting an image, you select polygon, and you get a lot of variation sliders that will happen like at the level of the scattered shape. If you remember, our last stream was about randomization for the Pebbles generator. This is pretty much it. And so you can actually randomize the how many sides the polygon will have, right? 5, 6, 7. I don't know how that works exactly. You set the count, and then the higher you pull this, the more different shapes you will get. You can specify softness variance as well, so that's cool. And other than that, it's just your normal scatter. So you have these offset variance, size variance, the scale, all that. Yeah. One advantage of this is that you can actually use the flood fill, and it will compute the flood fill for every shape for you, and it's fairly cheap actually. It's not that bad. I think I use it for another effect here. Yeah. No. I use it somewhere. I'll show you. So guided scatter, I just wanted little like a base for grain scattering for my material. Yeah. So what I do, I just slow blur it to introduce more interesting shapes, just some noise. Again, this dirt, stone noise, or not the stone, alien noise. Then this is something I figured out myself, so I guess I can share it. So you blur the image by a little bit, like not too much, but by a little. Is that you blur the image a little. That's it. And so by like 2%, for example. Then, using the difference blending mode with the original, well, you will get the difference. So this is exactly like edge detect, in a sense, right? No, not exactly. It's kind of like edge detect. Then you level it, and you get these white shapes. And if you use this non-uniform blur is a sort of a map-driven blur. So the intensity input will tell the node where to blur the most. So the result is something like this. You get blurred edges, but the inside of your shapes stay more or less sharp. So that's one way of isolating, I guess, the inner parts of your shapes. And also it introduces variation in the grayscale values. So that's an interesting technique. I think I also picked it up in that marble material. I'm not sure now, but yeah. But I think he uses an invert here and does something else there. I don't remember, but that you can check it out. And then I just blend it in, right? And with a multiply, so I'm basically removing some of the values away, giving me more interesting shapes with an outline and a bit of depth. Of course, a non-uniform blur has these settings like sample count, which is self-explanatory. There will be more samples in the transitions. And the direction count, I think what's happening under the hood, there is some sort of warping. Just like in slow blur is a cascade of warps. And I think the non-uniform blur does something similar. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think that's what's happening now. There. I haven't checked the interior of the node, but yeah. Okay. So we get these kind of medium-sized speckles and some warping, and again we sharpen it. If you don't sharpen it, you will get like some muddy, weird stuff. If you sharpen it, you get these strange artifacting edges, but that's actually okay for the color. I'm also vector warping it again to I guess I didn't have to do that, but since I'm already like over the budget, over a computational budget, I didn't care too much. And yeah, the input is from that random direction from before for each color patch or each each segment that's separated by the veins. Yeah, then I do another guided HSL pattern. So this one is like oh my god, that's way too strong. What did I do? It's like, stop being so crazy. Okay, so yeah, another HSL variation based on these maps. I actually safe transformed it to get like different pattern. I did some more slow blurring. I subtracted some noises, broke it up, and this gives me outlines for these grain specks. So that's what I did first. I don't know if you can even see it. It's kind of there, yeah. I actually wanted to do another one that would brighten it, but I didn't like it, so I'm not using that right now. And yeah, then I'm doing this again, and you can see what it does, right? Like this is this crazy darkening, and here it should go the other way, right? It's like introducing saturation and changing the color a bit to the red. I'm actually shifting the hue quite a bit, yeah, and I'm blending it together using some masks. So it's not as crazy, but you can definitely see these black spots with outlines there and with color variation, which is I saw that in a couple of marble-like materials. So yeah, guided HSL. That's very useful. It's very much useful. All right. Okay. Again, another guided scatter that's going to give me some more specs. This time a bit smaller. The resolution is like 128 by 28. The one before was what, 64, and the last one I'm using somewhere here is 512. So you can see that those are really small. It's more or less the same process, some blurring, some slow blurring, a noise here and there, using the difference to non-uniform blur it, do some more directional warping, sharpening, and then you do something with the color. This time I'm using this color palette node. It's from the set of nodes created by Urban Rebier. So you can check out his ArtStation and download it there. So I'm basically creating a custom gradient. You could do this yourself easily. It's not a big deal. But I wanted it I wanted it to be dependent on the variables, and this is a node that helps me do it. Yeah. So a gradient map, and what it did, it like remapped these values. I also quantized it. Quantization will give you like value stepping. So we only have like 6 different steps of grayscale values that will drive the coloration of our specs. And yeah, we are blending it in. So here and there, again, yeah, nothing. Here. So that's like the white specs, I guess, white-ish. Okay. Yeah, that's the same technique for this one, except this time for this guided scatter, for this very small guided scatter. I guess I shouldn't have done this here. I should have done it here. I'll go back and fix it. It's fine. I'm using this flat fill output. I take the flat fill to color to create a mask, and I also take another flat fill to color here. And this time I'm remapping the color from this color palette and scattering it randomly using the sample from image input again, right? So I get like different colors for each grain. That's still based on the colors I'm using in my material. So again, the same technique, and here I'm just I wasn't happy with what I got. I have the grayscale mask, so that's fine. I don't have to worry about like changing the material too much using the distance, the dilation. but I wanted to remove some of the edges that I had there, the color edges, using a HSL transformation or a HCL. Doesn't really matter that much, and yeah, then we get like super fine specks here and there. Again, that's a detail. It's like to satisfy my OCD. Okay, it's not something that's going to be very visible. If I were to, let's say, introduce quite a lot of roughness variation based on these specs, then maybe, right, maybe people would notice it. I don't intend to do that. That doesn't make much sense, right? The marble is very uniform in terms of the IORs, so I'm not going to be doing that. Anyway, and that's pretty much it for the color map, for the patches map, the base. This is one last thing I added today, and it is more color for the veins. Yeah, it's this outline here. It gives me a little bit more of a separation, visual separation of these little patches. It's really stylized, of course, right? The InstaMAT's material had these very strong black lines there. I didn't want that, so I was more subtle. But yeah, that's it. So what I'm actually doing, I'm taking this. Actually, it's the random direction map, and I'm converting it to grayscale. I'm just auto leveling it and taking an edge detect there, slow blurring it a little bit using minimum, sharpening it to get back some of the sharpness, and breaking it up with some noise, subtracting, multiplying in this case, leveling it out, and this is the mask that introduces the like black outlines. I'm using the previous colors, and I'm just using luminosity there, lowering the luminosity by like 3%. So again, it's like based on the color range that we specify in these variables here. All right, and this is the final step, and that's the veins. So we take the masks we had before, do some final post-processing to that, subtracting some noises and stuff like that, and we begin, right? And you can see what it does. This is really like the darkest color. I even like took the green color and really like pushed it into blacks and changed the hue a little bit so that we again get some more color variation. This is going to be covered, right? Like most of it is going to be covered, but that's the base. All right, moving on. Again, another map, another slow blur, another directional warp, creating these like noisy details. Not sure I like them, but I'll keep them for now. Taking the color 4, which is the darkest one, and blending it in. So we get like a little bit of green, a little bit of yellow. Moving on. Right, this is actually very quick. Once you have these masks, the color comes together very quickly. The issue is like coming with these setups here, right? Like the little grains and little like color differentiations here and there. Those are the ones that take the longest. The veins, once you have the shapes of the veins, this takes like 15 minutes to put together. It's not a big deal. All right. Next. Yes, this is actually blending in the brightest vein color, the original vein color, and you can see that we have these outlines. We have the reds here. We have the greens, the blues. We have the color variation, the saturation variation. It's all coming together now. Now it looks like marble a little bit, at least to my eyes, right? Like that's what defines the material here. Okay, using more masks, adding additional detail. Yeah, we have this warped hairline, veins, stuff like that. Again, using more masks, using the masks we made before to introduce some like masking variation. Sometimes it's there are more cracks, sometimes there are less cracks. Now this one will introduce these really dark veins. I don't know if this is realistic in any way. In fact, I think these should be blended in before I blend in the white ones. Huh. Yeah, I'll have to fix that. It doesn't make sense because now it's covering these veins here, and that doesn't look good. I'll fix that. I'll just change the order. Um, yeah, I like this. I like what it adds to the material. So there are these black, like yellow, dark yellow veins. Okay, we are coming to an end finally, and yeah, using some of the cracks before, just safe transforming them and adding a little bit more of them in. So these are those lines here. Yeah, it is like yellowish lines. Again, like you won't see it that much, but you will feel it when you look at the material. Okay, more. This time we are. What are we doing, huh? I mean, there is some detail coming in. I don't know what it is. It's wall noise. Whoops. I think it's just like final color variation noise using again guided HSL. Yeah, just shifting the saturation around, maybe shifting the luminosity around. At least I was supposed to. Really, this is an optional step. Okay. And then we are taking this final spec map, blending in the veins, color again, which I already showed you. It introduces these little specks here and there, and some more green noise, subtle color variation, dark brown to cover it. That's almost like getting in the realm of like introducing dirt, but I wanted, like I said, I wanted the material to have this like brownish, yellowish tone, so I introduced quite a bit of brown here, and that's it. That's the color map. So I thought I was actually going to work on something today, but it seems that just going through this twice took almost 2 hours. So I guess yeah, that's it. But here you have a very detailed overview of the color map, obviously. Now let's fix a few things. So I said that this doesn't make sense, and it doesn't, so we have to change that. Tomasz says, how many hours from start to finish it took you to make this material? How many percent of it was trial and error? Okay. Well, trial and error, a lot. You know, you choose a technique, especially when you're learning, right? Like I tried to imitate the material from InstaMAT. You choose a technique, and then you have to figure out how it works exactly, right? Like seeing the notes doesn't mean that you know what the values do. So you have to play around with that. And I'm very obsessive with details or about details. And so the first part, this part here, took me maybe 30 minutes. That's not a big deal, right? Like I already knew how to do the Voronoi pattern. I already knew these techniques with the vector warps and the edge detects. This is something I do all the time, you know, this kind of masking. And then I think the slowest part of any material is like figuring out these little values on your slope blurs and directional warps. And honestly, like I still don't know what will make for a good slope blur height input, right? I keep like testing what's going to give me sharp edges, what's going to give me like good flow of detail, what's going to be is it going to be wavy with a lot of like fine specks, like something, let's say fractal noise or clouds heavy, or is it going to be just like wobbly if you use purlin? Like I know these, right? But I don't know how to get a specific look yet, right? It's I'm fairly new at this, so that takes a lot of time. So it's that's a lot of trial and error every time, but that's trial and error even from experienced artists. Of course, you can have your workflows, you can have your go-to nodes, your go-to looks, and there are people who can make something like this in 2 hours, right? This color map, since I wasn't really sure what I was going for, and I was studying that material, going back and forth all the time, I would say it took me about a day. In my terms, that means like 6 to 9 hours of actually sitting here and doing that. So it's not quick, but that's because at least like 50% of the time is me trying to figure out how to do stuff, learn techniques, learn about the materials and stuff like that. So for someone who had already done some marble materials like this in the past, it's going to be 2-3 hours, 4 hours, I imagine, plus some polish. It's not that bad. Because it's the same techniques over and over again. You just have to I'm still studying, so I keep adding techniques to my arsenal, if that makes sense, and that takes a lot of time. I can't give you an exact number, but I would say about a day. I also don't have time to just sit at the computer and do it. You know, I have some jobs and stuff like that. So I'm not a professional artist, so yeah. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm a bit rambly. Right. What was I going to do? Oh yeah, I was going to switch the order here. Where was it? I should have labeled that stuff before. Here, yeah, that's it's like the black veins going in. So where do we blend it in? Probably here. Yeah, that makes sense. So we need to take... but we will need some... No, that's fine, that's fine. So this goes here. We have to unplug this. Move here. This moves... Oh, okay, that's not gonna be the most beautiful thing ever, but that doesn't matter. We want to do this into this background, this into this edge, and this we plug here. And now, if I'm not mistaken, they should be below these, because we are going to blend this over that. Yes, yes, that looks a bit better to my obsessive compulsive disorder. Good. Goody. Goody, goody. This is a bit of a mess, but I guess I don't care. Yeah, this is just some additional creative masking for some of the details I added after I went through the material the first time. No, that's special. I think this is actually meant to introduce subtle variations into the veins themselves, right? I took a stone noise, I think, or maybe like sloped fractal noise. Definitely a sloped fractal noise. I slope blurred it, leveled it out, so I took out some of the whites, and yeah, just subtracted it from the material, sharpened it. So that's the color map. That's not even the whole color map, right? This is just the tiles. I think I overdid it a little bit, but I guess despite this being a bit of an experimental part of the material, I think it's going to be good. I should hope so. But I think it's going to be good, and I think if I were to sell this material, or try to sell this material, I might go in again and polish it quite a bit more, and I also need to expose all of the parameters and think about how they would be used beyond my little experimentation. But that's for tomorrow, I guess, because right now I'm kind of tired. All right, so now just to give you a clue as to how I would apply it to the other material, right? I'm not gonna do too much, but one last thing. So let's go back to my old tile floor. Oh yeah, and the rest of the material, many days. But that's again because I was experimenting a lot, and I kept going back and fixing the stupid cracks. I had nightmares about cracks. I was literally being chased through somewhere because my cracks didn't look good. That was a really cool nightmare. I guess I'm becoming a professional, yeah? Alright, what happened here? I guess I moved something, huh? Oops. Yeah, what is this? There's nothing here. Oops. Like so. Like so. Like so. Good. So, I have a lot of masks ready from before for the material. Where is that? Right, this is one of the fragments masks. So I would take this. I would flat fill it. Maybe I have a flat fill ready. Here, I have a flat fill ready. I would flat fill it. I would take this flat fill to random direction. Again, use distance with the and then I would take the color map that we have just made. Same way Volvo truck is chasing me in my dreams, so I can realize. Yeah, are you working in a car industry? uh, you know, for the most part, my nightmares are about pretending to be an artist or whatever else I'm trying to do, to be in my life. You know, like I used to be an academic, sort of, and yeah, I kept having dreams about like not coming up with good enough studies or like giving a talk and nobody liked it, stuff like that. Imposter syndrome. Oh, you work in the truck simulator? Yeah. Are you based in Prague? You know, I was actually thinking about applying for a job in the studio. I don't know if I want to. It seems that a lot of the stuff, you know, they do there is quite like ancient technology-wise. But it's actually very easy to. Oh, I don't want to say that. No, no, no. That's not what I want to say. It's uh, it's actually fairly easy for me to apply there. They are in Prague, and they also have these open positions, open junior positions. I was really considering. Oh, you're not working for SCS. I see, I see. Sorry, Dan. Yeah, SCS, like the engine they use and stuff, it's ancient. Oh. So actually, like working on materials for SCS would be a nightmare because they don't even use the PBR stuff. Yeah, it's their custom shading. So I wouldn't. But it might be a good starting point for me to get into the industry if they are still hiring. Last year they were hiring modelers and environmental artists, and I actually knew one of my classmates from my university. We both studied something completely unrelated to game development and 3D graphics and stuff like that. But he actually got a job there, and now he's fairly successful in the field. So I thought, you know, maybe I could try the same. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Truck Simulator is super popular. So, you know, you should definitely go and create some nice competition for them. Yeah, I guess I will. All right. So yeah. So we have this vector field, and we have this mask, right? So just to show you, yeah, we have the color input. We are going to use the vector warp using this map, and you will see that it's going to create like we already have the tiles there, right? Like it's there. Here we have the settings for the offset. How much? You can also invert the direction and then do that. So let's begin with this. And then, because we don't want all of that, right? We just want it here. We would blend whatever color we wanted. Probably this would be the color from the rest of the material, from the bottom part, right? From the grid. So for now, let's just say solid color black. Yeah, and we would use this mask. That's it, right? And here you have a remapped material. I guess we could preview this as 3D material. There you go. Okay, it's a bit large. We will have to make it smaller. But it shouldn't be a problem. Actually, we could do it here. We could take something like safe transform. Yeah, that's more appropriate for the size. Also, we probably have way too many cracks now that I'm looking at this. Well, there is some tweaking to be done, right? But the material is kind of there now. Not sure I like the result. It's a bit too chaotic, I guess. I'll sleep on it. Yeah, but I definitely have way too many cracks here. So we need to probably lower the frequency of our Voronoi inputs. Then, yeah, it's still probably too thick. Maybe lower the amount of distortion at the beginning of the graph. I don't know. What do you guys think? Does it look okay? Would you change something? What would you change if you were to change something? I would also probably use a different mask for the first vector warp because I want the tiles to have the same pattern, right? Like the cracks this shouldn't be so offset. This doesn't make sense. It should be continuous here. In fact, it might be a good idea to create a couple of masks, and let's say like you have like 4 or 5 tiles that have the same pattern, the same vector, and then again like 4 or 5 tiles that have another, right? So that the vector warp goes across these shapes. No, this is just a preview, you know, for the black. Or if you mean, do you mean this green? The black is just for a preview because there is a whole material that's not doesn't have any color yet. All right, so wait a minute, Tomasz. I'll show you the material as it is right now. Yeah, you know, it's like. So this is the height map, right? So let me show you on a plane. So this is it. Maybe less styling. Yeah. So that's it. And maybe increase the tessellation to 2 because that's what I worked with. Yeah. So you can see that there is like elevation stuff. Yeah. It's not there isn't any color for any of this. Yeah, that was the first color map I started working on for the tiles. Of course, there will be this grid, this dirt, all these little branches, the leaves that I added. There will be a dirt layer, and of course we have to address like edge wear and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's like there is still maybe a day or two of work on that. So yeah, do not panic. But thank you. Yes, that's very obviously. If I was serious about it, it would be crazy. Yeah. So it's just for the preview. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna go to bed. Thank you for staying with me. Hopefully this was useful to you. My learning experience trying to figure out this pattern. Obviously it's not ready. I would say that, yeah, this is too warpy, too dense. I don't know. Let's just go back. Where was it? No? Oh, come on. I don't remember. Oh my god, what's going on? Where did I create that? This is the Atlas scattering. No. No, 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 no. Ah, here. Okay. Oof. Uh, getting lost in my own graph. Yeah. Let's turn off the safe transform. And play with the transforms. So what if I simply scaled it down? That's a little bit. I guess that's the thickness for the. This would be the right thickness for the veins. So about yeah, rescale it twice. Make it smaller by the order of 2. And the other way, we made it bigger. Yeah, no. It definitely needs to be smaller. Both the veins and probably the pattern, because this looks better to me. But then there has to be a lot less of that white, I think. Yeah, that will be my take. All right, with that, I'm gonna leave you. So yeah, I guess I'll see you around. I'll probably stream on Friday or on Saturday. I don't know what my schedule is yet, but I definitely want to stream some more. So yeah, all right. Goodbye. Have a good one. See you soon. Bye, Mike. Bye, Tomasz. Bye, Dan. Bye, everyone else.